You're juggling it all: work, family, decisions, expectations, 6 hats, maybe more every single day. But behind the scenes, your body is running on stress, and stress left unchecked will lead to illness. I'm Dr. Shami, an integrated family doctor, and this is 6 Hats, the podcast that helps you understand what stress is doing to your body and what you can do about it now. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 6 Hats podcast. And in this episode, I sit down with menopause coach Baljit Rana, founder of Menobloom Wellness Coaching. And we're going to explore a new empowering approach to navigating perimenopause and menopause. Now, from brain fog and mood swings to burnout and hormone chaos, Baljit shares how coaching helps women feel seen, supported, and equipped to reclaim their vitality. We're going to unpack the real impact of stress on hormones, why menopause today is not what it was 50 years ago, and how women are rewriting the narrative, one empowered decision at a time. Now, with practical wisdom and real-life stories, this episode is a gentle, empowering guide for women ready to feel like themselves again. So welcome, Baljit.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shami, for having me here to talk to you about something I'm very passionate about, and I know you are too.
Amazing, amazing. So what I'm going to start off with, I'd love to know more about what concerns women come to you with during perimenopause and menopause.
There's a vast range. You've touched on some of the symptoms as you introduced this topic. So it could be anything from hot flashes, night sweats, to poor sleep, so disturbed sleep or insomnia, to cognitive fatigue or brain fog, as it's referred to, joint pains, low moods, feeling anxious, and even weight gain, which they can't explain because it's like, I'm not doing anything different. And also intimacy and loss of interest in a little bit like sex or low libido. So it's quite a range. And there are a lot of symptoms that women can present themselves with during perimenopause and then menopause. The list is pretty long, but they're typically the ones that my clients come to me to talk to me about, to try and get help and support with.
Awesome. And while they're on their journey, how do they find you? What makes them want to book with a coach?
So I'm based actually in a really great space, Linden Avenue Specialist Centre. So another Dr. Shami, there's 2 of you, gynecologist and obstetrician, very, very specialised in what she does for many, many years. She sees a lot of patients for various issues to do with gynecological issues, whether it's endometriosis, and she's obviously does surgeries too, and menopause and whatever else. So that could be one way of patients being referred or knowing about the fact that I'm physically there in that space in Malvern. And I have a website, which is obviously everyone does. If they go on, they can have a quick scroll to see what is this Menobloom? What does it stand for? What is it about? So for me, when that name and that brand was created is something new. It was to incorporate men, the word meno, men for menstruation, meno for menopause, and even men to be educated about this topic, very topic, particularly around perimenopause and menopause, whether that be your partner, your husband, your brother, your work colleague, or a friend. They really could benefit, and they're quite intrigued to know what is this menopause, let alone women. So Meno and Bloom, a period of thriving and blooming, and this new transition, which is to be welcomed for women, which is what my focus is, because it isn't pause. I don't like that word pause, because life does not pause. Definitely doesn't. So it's embracing all of the challenge, all the new changes. Yes, it can be challenging for sure, because you don't know what the heck's going on, particularly in perimenopause, because a lot of symptoms that women will have, they will not think it's menopause, because you think this is where things have changed a lot in terms of the education and raising awareness, that one day you wake up and you've got menopause. And that's what we thought was what we went through with our parents and our mothers and grandmothers. But no, as you know, in your medical profession, it isn't. It's the period leading up. It can be anything from a few years up into that point of 12 months of not having your period. So it is basically incorporating all of that. So to answer your question, so that even other professionals, medical professionals, GPs, other women health providers, practitioners, and functional practitioners like yourself, and word of mouth. And I think a lot of it is like in the local cafes and gyms, and really suffering with my menopause symptoms. I need help, and even I was one of those. And that's what led me to create. I don't see it as a business. I see it as something that I want to give back to the community. And for myself, it was something that was missing. You can go to get the medical intervention and help and guidance on whether I should take, treatments or not, hormonal treatments, and what's going on. And to your GP, certainly. And they're pretty experienced in knowing what to say to you and what to suggest in terms of options that are available. However, it stops at then emotional things in terms of, they can say, oh, you're suffering from anxiety, depression. Again, they might go down that medical route. But with my background in psychology, I'm interested in knowing what's going on for them, how are they coping, their mindset, their values, and just how they're assessing their life, their own identities, navigating through all of those things. So that's something that I thought that is something that's missing. That's one element. And obviously then the others, because it's a holistic approach with the nutrition, movement, and, everything else in terms of how women, whatever they need that support with, do through their journey of menopause. So that's basically, it couldn't come from, the referral. People can know about me through many different ways. And they're like, oh God, this really needed to exist because now I can talk openly. I mean, it's not therapy, it's not counseling, but it is a space for them that they, will be heard. What are their feelings, some of their, and you get everyone from crying or feeling, I could actually talk openly to someone about this that gets it. Because like I said, I've had my own personal observations and experiences too, myself and other people around me. And it is a very personal journey, but just feeling that you have got somebody that you can talk to that gets you, that understands, that you're not losing your mind, you're not going crazy. And also just to then say, right, okay, I think you need help with your sleep or your stress levels or your fitness, your movement, nutrition. So it's education around a lot of things. And then with coaching, and that's why it's the coaching that I'm advocating for, is getting them to reach their goals. So there's a lot of different techniques and tools that I'll use from my sort of psychology toolbox, and that includes a lot of stuff around positive psychology, neuropsychology, behavioral psychology tools. But it's about what really they can then realistically achieve to achieve those goals.
Yeah, I love what you said. There were so many areas to unpack there. I loved how you called it Menobloom. It's transitioning to a new stage in your life, and this is what we need to celebrate. And you're so right. These symptoms can last years on the lead up. And what I'm hearing is as young as 30, in their 30s, people go through early menopause and perimenopause. So it can affect you much earlier than you think. And it's so true because all these symptoms might happen, in an isolated way. So you're not actually connecting all the dots, not even putting a label of perimenopause under it. So you often may not actually find the solutions because you might present to one doctor with tiredness, you might present to another doctor with weight gain, and another doctor with anxiety, or, you're presenting in so many different ways separately that people are connecting the dots. And you're so right. It's a long list of symptoms. All interconnected. So I love how you're giving the coaching side because it makes it so positive. It's not about just sitting and talking about the symptoms. It's like, right, what can we achieve? How can we get to where you want to get to, which is leading a vibrant, healthy, happy life and moving away from the symptoms that people are struggling with. But I'd love for you to take us on a patient journey, for example. What's a classic sort of example of a patient coming to see you, and what does their journey look like in terms of change?
Sure. So, like I mentioned earlier, it is very individual because we cannot ignore where they've come from in order to arrive at that time in their life. So whether they've had children or not had children, they've got elderly parents, they've got what their job looks like, that if they've had other health issues, and especially like you mentioned, people can enter menopause earlier. So it could be because of surgical procedures that they've had. They've had that menopause start earlier, or treatments that they've had. So what they're interested in is basically trying to understand, firstly, like you say, I didn't realize my hair thinning is to do with menopause. I didn't realize my dry, itchy skin was to do with menopause. I didn't realize the fact that I'm just feeling so tired all the time. I've got no energy, just don't feel myself anymore. So typically that is the first starting point for a lot of the patients that come to me. And just to really, so there's screening measures and there's a long list there for them to sort, where are you at with them? Do you have any of those? And that straight away is an education for them. It could be one of those symptoms you're having now or maybe later. And then they are typically also, then what I ask them to do is to create a vision statement of what and just reassessing where they're at with their life right now. So values, their beliefs, what do they really want to hold time and space and importance to right now in their life? given the fact that they've got these changes going on that they don't have much control of. Physiologically, obviously, that there's going to be something they can't. Mentally, emotionally, to an extent, they could, but they're all obviously interacting with each other. So a lot of the common ones that come through, like a typical patient would come through to me, is about the low moods, and the rage, the menopausal rage. Why am I losing my mind? And just my partner or my husband is saying, "You just."
I was just about to say that. I bet the partner noticed.
They pick up on it and they're like, "You don't really pick up on it." So what's happening? You're just so irritable or moody or angry, and little things are getting to you. And that can really, again, psychologically, not only like somebody saying that to them feel really, oh my goodness me, putting the mirror, holding the mirror up, and then not thinking, I didn't realize, is that just not, I'm just tired, no, it's like, then they start looking into themselves even more. What am I not doing? And because of that, the sort of like the add-on effects of that too. So, and then it's like, and then I'm not sleeping because I'm thinking about all this stuff. So the insomnia, the disturbed sleeps, a lot of sleep hygiene behaviors that they're not practicing that they should be aware of and could be aware. And a lot of it is that they're not, Shami, taking time for themselves just to actually recognize that they have changed, their body and their mind has, and they just need to give themselves more care and attention. So even if it's like 5-10 minutes before they go to bed to do that breathing, or listen to some meditation, or go on that walk, or actually put more protein into their diet, to the nutrition that they have to, have more of in their body, and the fiber, and for the bowels and everything else. So it's all of these things that they just don't recognize and appreciate. And some women, unfortunately, have felt on the back of the mood thing or other things that they're feeling about their self-belief, about their bodies, it can affect their relationships, where they question themselves, am I really the same person? Should I be? Maybe I'm not. Maybe I have now that period of those 20-30 years I was with my partner, husband, I've had the kids and everything. And because I'm in a different point of my life, of my identity, my self-belief, my body, maybe, they start questioning the relationship. And I'm not a marriage counselor or anything like that, make that decision for, but it is a time and space for where they do reassess everything, relationships, full stop, whether it's with their partners, but even social circles. Are they serving? Are they not? Because at this point in their lives too, there's a lot of research around this too, around the importance of having community and social networks. So they really need to have that to help them with their own journeys and shared stories, their emotional resilience, reducing their stress levels, normalizing things, and also, like we said, recognizing the fact that they need to go and get the help, being proactive about it too, to get the help from the professionals. But this social community networks, and and that could be work, that could be your cultural community, could be a social community, your neighborhood, and really that's very powerful too. And a lot of them then, and I've, through the patients and clients I have, make those connections for them and have events and things for them to informally, let's go for coffee and have a chat. So that is really powerful for them too, because again, as we know this in the research and just human behavior, is the fact that we like to, especially females, feel that connection and that sort of greater empathy we share and compassion. Not just, we just want to help others too, and like, this is how I dealt with it, and that's how have you tried this, have you tried that? Because otherwise we can feel alone on that journey.
I loved what you mentioned about loneliness. I think we underestimate how lonely people are. And why I say that, because you could be married, you could be in a relationship, you could have a family nearby, but still feel lonely. It's the perception of loneliness.
Yeah.
When I do ask patients, who's your support network? Who can you speak to when you really want to talk about those real problems? And there is no one that you can feel completely relaxed, safe to talk about the real problems. And we've just moved away from communities of 50, 60 years ago, where you'd have an aunt down the road, an elder that you ask for advice and you feel safe and supported. We're actually living very isolated lives. Just think about if, you're living in an apartment block, how often do you see your neighbors?
Yeah.
Actually, living down the street, how often do you see your neighbors? Often you just go to work. Absolutely. And we've lost that sense of community where we can share the stress. So I loved how you said, it's so powerful for women to come together in groups and share experiences, because we realize we're not alone.
Yeah.
We can actually share our knowledge and share the wisdom, because we're not actually meant to go through life alone.
No.
Just escalated in terms of the stress levels, because this is what's actually happening.
Yes.
Navigating life, feeling so alone that we have to address all of these stresses. But for example, if you had this massive community and you were saying, right, there's a job out here, there's someone to talk to here. Oh, I can help you with that. I can
Yeah.
help you. How amazing would that feel?
Exactly. Straight away, you feel that that load has been taken off because it's that connection, but understanding, like it's not taboo. You're not talking a weird language. Someone gets you. Oh, I'm not the only one that someone's calling me crazy or losing my mind, and pull yourself together. I've heard that too, and even at work, and there's been experiences, a lot of women who come to me, and I've done some stuff in workplaces too, and it's so embarrassing. I was in a meeting and I was dripping. I had to get up and the men around me and they're in senior positions, and like the horror that they can't even say anything to anyone about that. So yeah, again, it's just those things. And also in that space that I talk about, it's very, very important for men as well. And I also, inclusive of that, bring your partners along, bring your family members along, because that the ideal scenario is the more they know. And I also would say that about not just menopause. I would say that too about the other support that I offer, which is on menstruation issues like endometriosis, PCOS, and PMDD and PMS. Whether they're young boys, they're going to be someone's partners one day, boyfriends or whatever, and or husbands. And also just like, I know my brother used to be really, good time of the month going on, and it's like the hormones are flying around in the house with three sisters. And, so the more they know, the more then they're going to become a manager one day or an employer, so that really needs to be spread. And that the more education, the more people will know, because it has been, and we talked earlier, you mentioned about how much has progressed 50 years on. To an extent, it still is a bit of a taboo. Let's not talk about it, but it's getting better, fortunately. And that's why it's a really good time to be in this space in terms of spreading the word and doing things actively on the ground. It is still, unfortunately, like I said, isolating, the stigma around it. And culturally, there's a lot of different fun. That's why I'm doing a lot of stuff with local communities too, on the radios. I've got things planned to do there as well, and in the actual places of worship as well, because there are cultural differences. Research has shown that Asian and ethnic minority women will have their menopause starting earlier, and they have it for longer, and the symptoms could be more intense. It's not hard and fast, but it's typically can be, and obviously it depends on if you're an Eastern country or Western country too. So given that, and again, the men as well need to be educated on this. So I think it's really important for us to feel that, when I say us, the collective, we, the women who have to physically go through this and emotionally, need to feel that, there's people know about this, and then therefore I can get support. And it's evidence-based, which is what I'm really passionate about. It's got to be evidence-based, because you can get anything off the internet or whatever, Google something on, on one of the social platforms, whatever. But it's evidence-based. Being an academic myself, the more you can give some hard and fast sort of research statistics and evidence around that, it's more powerful, it's more meaningful for them. UK are pretty ahead, America are pretty ahead in this space, and we're catching up, which is great to see. And obviously the fact that the government have invested in this too is like, yes, fantastic. And having specialized centers and clinics as well supporting this space, I think it's a good time that, yes, these problems do exist. They're not going to go away. They're real, and the extent of them, and what support we can need, and what we can do, and how to interact and engage with us in a different way too, both ways. I think it's very important.
Absolutely. I would love to do a bit of a sidestep and just move on to, I've always been curious about stress. Obviously, Six Hats is all about stress impacting our body. What's the impact of chronic stress on menopause symptoms?
Anything. So if you've got a pre-existing, you're susceptible to stress because you've had quite a few stressful life events going on, and your personality type is that of being stressed with bad things and just coping with a lot of it, will exacerbate it. So, and that's same with anxiety or depression too. So that's where it can get a bit tricky. Is it more that stress going on, anxiety, depression, or panic attacks, or is it the menopause? And it depends on what stage of menopause you're at. And obviously when you're obviously at post-menopause stage, and your estrogen levels, progesterone levels, the testosterone levels are pretty lower than what they were, then it is going to trigger certain things and make things more, because those receptors, when we have those in our body, they can help us heal and the way they engage with the body and the mind. It's all in the brain too. The brain is very, very the most powerful part here too. That's why I'm really interested in this too. So chronic stress is something that, again, you manage through, your lifestyle, your diet, and some things sometimes you can't take stressors away, that they're there, whether you're caring for aging parents or, your job can be stressful. Menopause, because of the hormones as well, activating then that sort of like, the central nervous system more, and I would say personally, in my own experience, I think it can exacerbate that. But I wouldn't straight away think, oh, it's because of my hormones. You just don't. You just always just say, oh, it's just I'm going through stress. I'm just going through that at the moment, and that's probably what's going on. But medically, I'm not a medic myself, but in terms of, I'm sure this is probably where you're 100%, you'll know there's more of expertise. It would very likely with the combination of the hormones and the brain activity and what's going on in your nervous system and other symptoms that are all going on too, very likely exacerbate that.
Absolutely. So this is where you're absolutely right. And I see so many women with chronic stress, and it does affect the female hormones. And I often say, we know about the ovaries and we know what they're doing, but we've forgotten about the adrenal glands and the glands that sit on top of your kidneys that not only secrete cortisol and all your stress hormones, but it also secretes estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So what actually happens stress is something called pregnenolone steal. So it steals this progesterone pathway to support cortisol. So you can already see how years of chronic stress, and then you lead up to menopause where you already have a decline of estrogen. Then you add in the decline of progesterone as well through to chronic stress. And then you've got higher cortisol. Of impact on hormones. So progesterone is so important. Often in mainstream medicine, they forget how important progesterone is. It binds to GABA receptors, so it calms the nervous system, sleep, and literally that's why many women feel anxious and can't sleep. It's that decline of progesterone, and of course, the decline of estrogen is all the hot flushes and night sweat, and the symptoms go on. And then you have, the cortisol, which affects weight, but more important, as estrogen declines, you're more likely to get insulin resistance. So things are already working against you.
So it does.
It doesn't help being stressed on top, like leading a very stressful life. So I'm curious to know, the many women that come and see you, have they got really busy lives?
Yes. Very. Majority of them do. Those that are in the perimenopause stage will have younger children, so they've got that running around, after school stuff going on and everything else, and whether they're running a business themselves or they've got their own careers and stuff. So it's all that navigating, running the home, and then the relationships. And so they really are, they're just juggling so much, and they're feeling stressed because they're presenting with, I can tell, the cortisol levels are up, the sugar, the cravings for the sugar, and because they're probably still having their periods too, or lightly, they're up and down the periods. Because straight away I say, look, it's the decline, obviously, as you mentioned, the estrogen levels, progesterone, but also activating like the insulin and the glucose and the cravings and the sleep. They're just, and I used to be okay with sleeping, or maybe just I've got too much on my mind. I'm like, no, it's that stress and obviously the vagus nerve getting activated and the sympathetic nerve system. So they then realize when they're in that space, when you explain it to them, that this is going on, that's going on, and that's impacting on that physiologically and also psychologically what's going on. So, we just don't realize such a powerful thing that's going on behind the scenes internally in your body and your brain. And then they really are pretty shocked about then, oh my goodness, I better get to because it's always about trying to get to the root cause. And if I say, right, it sounds like you're going through a lot of stressful stuff at the moment, so let's try and deal with the stressors and the stress. I know some things you can't take away, but it's again how you're perhaps managing them or dealing with them, and whether it could be something like taking time out for the breathing or the your own self-care, and certain, vitamins supplements they should be taking, or certain things in their diet they should be having, to replace the sugars or the cravings or whatever else. So yes, I think that is pretty informative for them. And then knowing that, because they don't want to be stressed, obviously, then they realize, oh my goodness, because of the hormones, they are actually making things worse too. And I want to manage that. So for me, it is always trying to get to the root cause of stuff. And like I said, if they've gone through other stressful events and prior, their way of dealing with them, yes, they come out through the end and they're more resilient or empowered or whatever else. But, when they've had children and surgeries and whatever else, they juggle. But this journey of menopause, they just don't link that to
Mm.
having these things getting exacerbated, whether it's the anxiety, depression, and stress, or panic attacks. It's like my breathing's a bit funny, and I never used to be like that before. I just can't. I just feel these palpitations, and I feel, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack, And same with, and they said, I know we're talking about stress, but just as a side, they start thinking about I can't remember things anymore. I'm having dementia, and this fear that they have. I'm going through dementia. I'm going through adamant. I'm like, no, you're not. So sorry, that's just an aside. But the stress thing too, they really want to get to the root of it. They do want to understand. They want to know, okay, so is it just simple as increasing my hormones? Should I just have, hormone medications or patches or whatever? And that's an option, obviously, but there are other, obviously, when we look at things holistically and sort of naturally, there are other ways of them going around that. But again, stress management techniques as we know, when we all face stress, how do we deal with it? How do we mediate those factors? Some things we do have control of, some things we don't. How do we know if it's short term, it's ongoing, then it's harder to know when that's going to stop. So, but it's managing those, and like you say, the hormone levels that we can't manage those, control those, but in terms of what's going on mentally too for us, in terms of how we're facing that and being kinder to ourselves, I guess.
Love it. And I'm going to ask a few, what are your top tips? Before I do that, I just want to sidetrack, just observing like the last 20 years, the role of women and how many jobs they have in a day. It's just phenomenal. And I loved how you mentioned like the number of activities kids have and how they actually don't have time to sit down to have a family dinner. They're eating on the run. They might be skipping that, might be eating late, and it's tons and tons of activities. And plus they might be doing a bit of study and no time out in the weekend. Really funny. And I'd love to know your opinion on this, that when I ask, when do you do things for yourself? For mothers, especially, it's almost like a blank face, because it's like, actually, no, I don't do anything for myself. It's all about the partner, the kids, and the kids tend to come first. And it's really quite a shock to go, wow, I do need to do something for myself. Like the whole week is taken up looking after the house, the kids, partner.
Need an Uber driver. Running around.
What's your observation, Baljit?
I echo exactly. It's a similar stories that they say and they present, and they're just, I really don't. What do you mean? Oh my God, I just can't. And even when they've tried some of this, and when they've gone away, and some of their goals that they've set themselves is, and they take away the resources and right, I'm going to do that. That's my goal. I'm going to do. And they start off and then I did it for 3-4 days. I did the breathing. I did this. But then I had to stop, because then I had to, there was all this other stuff going on with my kids, and then my partner needed this, and I needed to spend time with him, because again, as women, the caregiver, the natural instincts that we have, we've got to give ourselves to everyone first, and then see if there's anything left over. But we're too tired, because then we're having disturbed sleep and the insomnia going on. So it's just like, whatever you can catch, whether it's an hour or two, that's fine. But they're really not. And I think that's unfortunately still missing. And you can't force anyone to, how do you create that space? Something has to give. So whether that's more shared with their partners in terms of who does more of whatever in the house, or you get help, paid help or whatever, or family, if they've got grandparents or siblings or aunts and uncles nearby, that's added bonus. That's huge. That can give them that bit of time and space to do things, and they greatly benefit when they do. And you see their faces, from like, no, I don't have time. Oh, I did. Guess what? And it was amazing. And yeah, they want to do it more, but it's just this duty and responsibility. It goes back to the psychological, like, what is my role and what is my identity? And that's where the journey will be different for women who've gone through post-menopause, and that's where they have those questioning. I've done all that. I brought the children up. I ran around and I ran the home and I was there. But it's about me now. But whether that's the right thing on time or not, I don't know. But everyone's on their own journeys. Some women may start their careers a bit later, or business or whatever, or health stuff got in the way. But it's all very much, they do recognize it, but they struggle with giving themselves that time and that space.
I'd love to find out how women, especially the women that have come to see, overcome that barrier of scheduling time for themselves. How do they do it?
I think that's where it helps coming to myself or anyone for coaching or something like that, where they can. I mean, obviously not just talking about, I've got this, then what? So that's why the coaching is a bit more, okay, what are you going to do about it? Okay, let's get real here. So the behavior-based goals or action-based goals. So behavior, obviously, just changing certain habits, and we know we're creatures of comfort. It's a big thing, and consistency is key as well. So we just set realistic goals for them to go away. Okay, we're gonna, and there's a lot of tools I've created, trackers, and just being really, mindful of the fact that you've got other things, but what can give? Let's just be realistic. Or how can you slot things in, and you measure that and you track that, in physical, like, right, I'm doing this today, and how have I gone on with it? How did it make me feel? So you have that reflections and journaling too. And then they can notice that even when they ask them, so their families around them, have you noticed a change? Am I happier? And when they actually do, then that's even more reassurance and positive reinforcement for them, right? So they also understand that, yes, it works and it is important. It is something that I can go away. So setting the goals, and then tracking them, because again, when they feel that they've come, it's not like I've given them homework or anything. Oh, how did I go? It's, anything is a win, anything, whether it's small, big, large, whatever, and consistency. But it's just also teaching them that they can do that, changing their habits. It is possible, but it's physically trying to create that space and time for those, and knowing that when you give them evidence, the benefits. You say, right, if you did this, do you know this going to, really? Okay. Otherwise, did you want to have medications? Do you want to, and then, no, I don't want to do medications. I want to do my own thing. And I want to feel moving my body better for, like, prevent bone, for osteoporosis, bone density. I want to go to the gym. I want to do this. I want to feel fitter and stronger, because this is why that exercise at the beginning about the values, a lot of women will recognize, I want to be here for my children. I want to be a grandmother. I want to have a longer life. I want to have a good heart. I don't want to have issues with cardiovascular health. I don't want to have diabetes if I keep carrying on eating sugar. I want to be able to move around. So when they know those goals, those long-term goals or their values, what they hold important to them, that you bring them back to today, how are you going to get there? So that's change management, that's psychology change in their head, that mindset, and that realistic as to, you've got to do something to get to that point. Because otherwise, really, when you're running around, you're not you are essentially being a cook and a cleaner and a Uber for your children, Uber driver, whatever, but you're not doing you're not even, and that is important, because you're not going to be good for anyone. You remind them that typical fact about, you're not good for any if you don't put the oxygen mask on yourself first.
Amazing. Now, before we let you go, top 3 tips that you would give any woman that comes to see you when it comes to lifestyle management.
For lifestyle management, I would say, obviously, that I like this. So there's a couple of quotes that I came across, and when and they're like, it makes them think, but then I'll make it more practical, because I feel like this journey, it is like, it doesn't come with a map. The women are navigating it without this map and without support. So I think the top 3 things I think that would work is, obviously, we talked about the social networks, the social support. That's like, not only just physically, it's emotionally, that they feel that they're being heard, they're listened to, it's normal, and how other people can, because they're all rated, it has an impact, their behavior and what they're feeling, their symptoms, it has an impact on everyone else around them. So nutrition is a huge one in this space. You've got to be having the right nutrition and protein and fibers and supplements for everything because to replace the estrogen and the other hormones that are declining. And best way to do it naturally. And movement is a really, really important one, isn't it? You've got to be moving in different ways, because before it could have been more hard and fast and cardio, but now it's got to be more strength based for the bone density, osteoporosis, heart health. So I know you asked for 3, but then there's been the psych as well. That's the mind, about keeping the mind stimulated too, as well, in terms of trying new things, getting out of your comfort zone, changing habits, and your identity. It's just reassessing what your identity is and what you would like it to be.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today, Baljit. That was so wonderful. And I'm sure
it's my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and they're great questions. It's very intriguing, and it's good to be just have a nice chat about this too. It just makes you think about some of the important things that women need to have help and support with, but how we are all together working in the same way to try and provide that holistic and integrative support to them. I'm inspired by your medical knowledge, and really about how that you have that experience and knowledge, and how that support is important for them. So that's how it's good that we can then understand that it is physiological, mental, emotional, so that we can obviously work together to help give them the right support that they need at this journey. It is empowering and enriching, and it's not doom and gloom.
What nice words to end on.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Shami.
Thanks for listening to 6 Hats, where it's all about progress, not perfection. If this episode spoke to you, don't wait, hit follow now, leave a quick review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Want to take your next step today? Download my ebook. The link is waiting in the show notes. And remember, this is general advice only. always speak to your practitioner for anything medical. See you next time.